So you transition to Crockett. At what point do your wives meet, all that good stuff, and then also who goes first to Crockett, and what's that look like?
He was there before me, but
Okay.
not by much, right? He was Crusher Cruise chef then at the time, right?
Yeah. So I was down in Florida Championship Wrestling at that time, and Flair came in, and it ended up being where I picked Flair up at the airport. Him and Harley Race were wrestling around there. So I made trips with him, and we spent about a week or two together drinking beer and having a good time. And he kept saying, you got to get to Charlotte. It's the greatest territory in the world, And he says, I'm calling up Arn Anderson, and he's going to get in there. And I told Rick, I said, I can't leave here. I got a great guarantee, and I'm home every night, and I'm in Florida going to the beaches, and I was partners with Jim Neidhart at the time. And we had a great time, So anyways, so Rick gets back to the territory, and then he has Dusty call me up. And Dusty says, Barry, you got to come in here. We need you. And Nikita Koloff is with Ivan, and we need, some help, because Nikita's green, and we'd like you to come in and help out and all that. And I told Dusty, I said, Dusty, I can't leave. I got a hell of a guarantee. I said, what are you going to do for me? He says, well, you'll start out getting about $400 or $500. I can guarantee you that, but we got to pop the territory. And I said, Dusty, I can't come in for that because I'm making $1,200 in Florida. I said, it's the easiest $1,200 a week I've ever made. And then he says, oh, no, you're going to end up coming up here. He says, because you're going to make way more than that, So about 2 weeks later, and then now Eddie Graham passed away, and then things were kind of changing there. So Flair calls me up. He says, you got to come in here. Call Dusty right now. So I said, all right, I'll come in there. So that's when I called Dusty, and Dusty says, yep, come on up. You got a job. You can start Monday or whatever it is. And then he says, yeah, we've been working on Arn, and Arn's coming up here too. He says, your buddy's coming. So you came in right after I came in there.
Do you remember what the date was when your first TV? Mine was, I came in March the 5th.
Yeah. How do you remember those dates?
Well, just because it was such a pivotal. Is that a word? Pivotal time in my career. I mean, that's when everything changed. Yeah. I had been in Pensacola for 14 months, which I loved, and I would have never left had Rick not been so persistent. But he said, you're going to make X amount of dollars. What did you make here? And, in those days on the small territories, if you made 30, 35 grand and you were home every night, that was the trade out.
Yeah. That was a fun job making $35,000 too.
Yeah. And he said, if you come to Charlotte, I guarantee you will make at least twice that much, maybe more.
So he worked us both.
Yes. Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to, and again, he set up a meeting. I worked out 2-week notice. Those guys were great. I can't thank them enough. The Fullers and Bob Armstrong. And they said, yeah, man, that's going to be, that place is much bigger. You have more opportunities to make a lot more money. You'll always have a home here if you want to come back. That's up to you. You can stay now or you can go, but we won't hold it against you if you go. So I got there March the 5th was my first television, and that would have been 80. That would have been 85.
85? Okay.
Yep. March 5th, 85.
Yeah, no, it was before that. Before 85, wasn't it?
March the 5th, 85.
Because Dakota.
I was Pensacola the whole 84, the whole month, and at 3 months of 85, I was still in Pensacola.
Well, all I know is when you came in there, we had one heck of a time.
Yes.
Well,
tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, you were living at the Sun Valley Apartments. I saw you at TV. I just was checked in a hotel. Got there the day before, had a meeting with Dusty at the office, and was checked into like a Red Roof Inn or something. And you came up to me at TV and said, where are you going to stay? We got a really good deal on apartment. Now, keep in mind, it was in a bad part of town.
But we didn't think anything of it though.
But we weren't there anywhere anyway. We were never home. We were riding either at the gym or traveling back and forth, because I found out right away the no trips went to tremendous trips back and forth to Norfolk, 340 each way. Because you had to drive it round trip. Number one, you couldn't afford a hotel if you were renting an apartment. And the next day they had Charleston booked, which was 200 miles the other way.
Yeah.
So 400. So you had 700 miles one way and then 400 the next.
Yeah. Brutal trips. But you know what though? Back then we didn't think nothing of it. We were so happy to be working every day and, really getting your skill down, your craft. And it was, you're in the car with all your buddies talking, and on the way home, you have a few beers and go over the match, what you should have did and shouldn't have done. And I mean, it was good times back then.
Yeah, it really was. Little did we know how it was going to do. I mean, they had so much success in that territory prior, but they were going through a downtime, and Vince was, starting his stuff where he was stealing all the talent. That was going to be happening pretty soon.
Yeah.
So, you could just tell the potential was there.